This is a video how to change the head motor cable on drift. We have had a very small percentage of cables break through the ball joint, so this is a new improved cable, and we've tested this for over 1,000 hours of use, covered under warranty, if in the rare occasion you did experience a fault with that. To change this then, we first need to remove the battery on the machine. Also, I've just removed the squeegee to give us a bit more access down here, and next thing to do is remove the head cover. So we've got 4 screws in the head, and then we also have 4 screws in the corners. So it's okay to remove the screws with an electric screwdriver, but when you put them back in, we recommend to do that by hand, because we're screwing into plastic bosses and we don't want to damage the thread. So if we turn the machine over, just grab the wheels so they don't fall off, the head cover can now be removed, and then you can see the old cable inside here. So we're going to pull the old cable out and disconnect it there. Next thing to do is remove the solenoid pod. So this uses a positive screwdriver as well. And then tip out the screws so we can keep them safe. Put those to one side. And then this just comes off to the side like so. This gives you access to the cable. So we're going to pull off this connector here like so. The next thing to do is to cut off this zip tie here. Okay, so just be careful when you cut that zip tie not to damage the water pipe, and then we can remove that like so. So we can pull out the old cable now. Make sure the cable's disconnected there. So this is the old cable. You can see because it has this like mesh outer sheath, whereas the new one has a smooth grey outer sheath. This connector goes in first. You can just check that that's going to fit there, and then we're going to thread that through the ball. Okay, so next thing to do is we're going to turn the machine around and put the head in this position like this, because this makes sure that the cable is in the most lengthened position. And then what we're going to do is, if you see this heat shrink here, we're going to leave about 15 millimeters there and just push that into that slot, and then connect the connector like so. That's so that we can give this joint some slack later on. Make sure the cable is in first and then the water pipe after, and pull the head into this position like so. So that holds the water pipe and the cable into place. We can now thread the cable into that slot like so, and we can put a new zip tie in there. So get the head of the zip tie, the top bit, and thread that through the hole like so, and we can now tighten the zip tie. Make sure that the head of the zip tie is in the gap in the middle there, out of the way, because you don't want that catching on the hose. You need to use a special tool like this, which is flat on one side. That makes sure that you don't leave a sharp bit on the zip tie. Okay, so that's now fitted correctly. You can now refit the cable. So this reconnects onto there like so. Thread the cable back inside. Make sure that the cable is pushed into that recess. Also make sure that the water pipe is pushed into that recess. And you can now refit the solenoid valve. So just be careful when you push this down that you don't trap the water pipe or the cable. It should look like this. They should both be pushed in deep into that recess. So we can now screw the solenoid pod back on, and you know, we're screwing into a plastic thread, so it's important that we're not to use an electric screwdriver for this. Do these by hand. Just turn it left until you hear it, you'll feel it drop into the thread, and then tighten it up by hand. Don't over tighten it. Like when it stops, just give it a quarter turn. That's all you need. These plastic bosses are very strong. If you service the machine this way, putting them in by hand, then you could take this apart 10 times or more without having any issues with the thread. So, but if you used a very strong electric screwdriver, there's a risk you could over tighten it and you'd rip out the thread. So that's now back on correctly. Okay, so if you remember earlier, we left about 15 millimeters here. That was so that we could give some slack. So at the moment, this is pulled quite tight, which when the cable's moving around, you know, it wants a bit more slack. So we're going to pull that out there and just push it up and then push it back in, like so. Make sure that's pushed down. And now you can see we've got a nice bend there, so there's some extra slack on the cable. So when this is moving around, there's no chance that cable is pulled too tight. So now we can put the head cover back on, hold the wheels, and this should just slot on. Just make sure you push it on. Should be flush all the way around. We can now turn this upside down. Same as we did earlier, screw these back in by hand. Just turn them to the left so you feel the thread drop. Just to check that's been fitted properly, this gap should be flush all the way along, all the way around. Just check it's perfectly flush in the corners. We can now put the squeegee back on. And that's it. It's all done, ready to go.